everybody. Dr. Amelia here from the Traverse Bay Children's Advocacy Center, and it is time for our March vlog. And the theme for this month is about reporting and making reports when you have a suspicion of abuse for a child and why that's so important. There are lots of how-tos on reporting that are available that are on our website about the logistics of that. And I know our executive director is also going to be talking this month about many different areas related to reporting. And I wanted to focus this month specifically on the things that get in the way of people making reports. And these are things that get in the way for people that are mandated reporters, which means that if we have a suspicion, it shouldn't be a choice. We are mandated to report that suspicion to the authorities, to either law enforcement or child protective services. But this also goes to everyone out in the community, family members, other people that work with kids that may not be mandated reporters. And what kind of gets in the way of people filing those reports, whether they're mandated to do it or not. And I think one of the first things that I hear people say, they're worried about making things worse for that child or making things worse for the family. Because what we know is that most of the time, abuse can occur within a family unit. So when we make a report, that can blow things up for the family and can make things really scary and unsure for that child and for the non-offending caregiver that's in the home for a period of time. So that's not an unrealistic thing to be worried about. But what I really want to talk about and challenge everyone, that is a process that is unfortunate, but it needs to happen. Sometimes there has to be a shift. There has to be kind of a period of uncertainty, and it might be a little scary for everybody about what's going to happen. But until we make a report, we can't put the focus on the abuse, and we can't have that change happen. And the earlier that we intervene and the earlier we report suspicions, it's not going to be as big of a blow up as it would be later on. It doesn't automatically mean that children are going to be removed from the home or something like that's going to happen to this child. Sometimes it does. Getting people help and supports, that's part of our job at the CAC. So learning, how to help families and refer families to the appropriate supports is another piece of what you can think about and learn about. Make that report for this child to protect them. It has to be something we're always putting in the front, even though we're worried about the other things that are going to happen afterwards. I think that another thing that people say to me about their frustrations about making reports is on the other end. The other thing is, well, nothing's going to happen. You know what? Other people have called about this and nothing happens. Why bother? Because I've tried to get help or I've tried to show people that I'm worried about this family and nothing comes of it. And part of the reason that may be true, and again, that's another legitimate concern that gets in the way of people reporting, is that sometimes there's not quite enough for Centralized Intake, who takes the phone calls, to really determine that an investigation has to happen. But the bottom line is, and this is what I tell people when we go out and we discuss these issues with teachers, with other people that are especially mandated reporters, but this goes for anyone in the community to make a report, is that don't not report, keep making reports. Make as many reports as you think need to be done if you're seeing new things happen, because sometimes 2 or 3 reports is what's needed before they can do what they need to do on CPS's side, Child Protective Services, to really help that child and do something. And that there may not be enough initially, but several reports, especially if they come from a few different people, can make all the difference in helping that child and family recover and heal and move forward when abuse is happening in the home or even outside of the home. Probably the third issue that I think I hear from people that gets in the way of reporting is that they're not sure if the abuse happened or not. So they'll say, well, I'm not going to make this report. I'm not going to do this if I think that it didn't happen. I need to be sure it happened before I make the report. And that is one of the biggest issues that gets in the way for mandated reporters, as well as people that are just people in the community to call, is that is not the criteria to make a report. The criteria and the place that we start with making a report to Centralized Intake for concern about abuse is just having a suspicion a reasonable suspicion. It is not our job to investigate, and that's not really appropriate for us to determine an investigation and to go forward and interview people and try to figure out if it happened or not. If you have a concern, and sometimes that concern starts with just something in your gut, something that tells you that this child is not safe, and the child says something to you, that's enough. That's enough to make the phone call. It's not our job to do the investigation. That is Child Protective Services' job, and we need to let them do their job. They're good at that. They're trained to do it, and that you're not going to get in trouble for being concerned about a child. The worst that can happen is that they're not going to follow up and investigate it if there's not enough information. But the best possible thing that could happen as an outcome is that you might be doing something to save this child from further abuse or neglect, and that you may be the only person standing there for that child at that time. So I guess that those are kind of the three main things that I wanted to address today and talk about, just to make sure that we're all thinking and on the same page about reporting and why it is so critically important to make those calls and to help protect kids. Because, there may be somebody who's afraid inside the family. It could be that abuse is going on. There could be domestic violence, where we often see that the person that is being abused and the kids are witnessing that is scared to death to report themselves what's going on. And so sometimes you have to be that support person, that person to hold their hand and make that initial call, because they may be too scared to do it. So that's why it's all of our jobs to be keeping our eyes and ears open for things to go on, and that it's not somebody else's problem, that whenever there's a child that's unsafe that's in our life, it's our problem, and it's our duty to go forward and try to protect them. So I hope that this was something that could be talked about for a long time, more than just a short vlog, but I hope that it starts a conversation, and I hope that you will think again about some of these issues getting in the way and kind of challenge yourself to overcome those concerns to protect a child and make sure they're safe. Thank you.